All right, today I want to talk about my favorite hunting rifle. And I guess I could also say my favorite long-range hunting rifle, because this rifle is kind of in my opinion, the do-it-all. A lot of long-range rifles tend to be a little bit longer rifles, longer barrels, feel a little bit bigger. And the reason that I love this rifle is because it has the performance of a long-range rifle, but it is a compact, short rifle. And it shoots incredible. And I'm talking about the Christensen Arms. I lost about half here right there, didn't I? No, I'm sorry, Christensen, I shouldn't have done that. I'm talking about this rifle right here. This is my son's rifle, and he is 13. He was 12 when I got this for him. This is in a 7 PRC. Some of you guys seen me talk about that mule deer I shot. I shot that mule deer with this rifle. Honestly, I only shot it with this rifle because the rifle that I had planned on taking wasn't ready to go. So I guess I'm too busy doing rifles for other people, and sometimes I guess I go on the back burner. It is what it is. But this thing performed absolutely incredible. Here's what I love about this rifle, and here's why I say it is my favorite rifle. I've done a lot of different rifles over the past probably 8 to 10 years. Anything from cheap rifles to custom rifles. And for the money, I have not found the rifle that has been easier to develop a load and has better performance than this little guy. They've been so incredibly easy to develop loads for, and they shoot great. So this rifle, just the bare rifle with no scope, comes in at 5.5 pounds. So with no scope, of course they show up with no muzzle brake on them. So when you initially pull them out of the packaging, you feel like you're holding a kid's toy gun almost. You feel like you're holding a pellet gun or something. But it's a high power rifle. This one's chambered in a 7 PRC. I have done this rifle in bigger calibers. The biggest caliber that I've done this lightweight guy in is a 300 PRC. And I was very pleasantly surprised at how low the recoil still was with that 300 PRC. It's a low enough recoil that I could still spot most of my hits, especially out there at 700-800 plus. This muzzle brake on here is the Seekins Precision muzzle brake, and it does such a great job. It's a little 4-port brake. I believe they do ship these rifles now, just started, with a muzzle brake that's the same diameter as the barrel, so you have that option. It's a directional port with some extra holes. I personally think this 4-port directional brake does a little better job. However, you can play around with that, especially if you're shooting a 6.5 PRC, a 7 PRC. That original brake that I believe they're sending with these now is probably going to do the trick. Something bigger, then I'd probably upgrade to that 4-port brake. I don't know if I actually mentioned the name of this rifle, but it's a Seekins Precision. It's the Havoc Element rifle. Now they have a line called the Havoc PH2, stands for Pro Hunter, and it's a phenomenal rifle. It comes in a little less expensive than this. However, there's a few things I love about this rifle that makes this my favorite. The first thing that I will say that probably makes this or quickly sets this into another category is the fact that this rail is machined right into the action. I have had, a handful of customers or a handful of rifles myself that have lost their zeros, and almost 100% of the time, it's because these rail screws come loose. Most rifles, the rail's held on with 4 screws, and if you're shooting a Magnum rifle, there's a lot of recoil there, and you have to check those from time to time. So a lot of times, in my experience, it's been a couple years of use, but to check those, you have to take the scope off, check them, put it back on, so now you have to go recheck your zeros and all that. I will say that most of the time when I am doing rifles with that, I use this red Loctite, and people tell you don't use red because it won't come off. And I'm like, I use red because I don't want it to come off. However, I will tell you I have backed out screws with red Loctite, and I use it on here, and I use it on muzzle brakes sometimes, just a little dab just to kind of keep them things snug. And most of the times I don't have problems, but I do love the fact that this thing's machined right into there, and it just makes such one extra point that you don't have to worry about losing a zero on. And almost every time I've lost zeros, it's been in the rail. So I love that it is a machine rail right into the action. This action is smooth, it's titanium, it's lightweight. They have done a lot of things on this to just kind of shave off the weight using aircraft grade aluminum for I guess in parts of this action, and along with titanium to keep it lightweight. The barrel is a slight bit skinnier than like the PH2 barrel, and it is shorter. So you have a little bit thinner barrel, you have a shorter compact. Most of these come in 22-inch barrels. Even the 300 PRC I did had a 22-inch barrel. You will lose a little bit of velocity. So if you're really after velocity and you really want that max speed that you can get out of it, then the element's not going to be doing it quite as much as the PH2, because the PH2 typically has a 24 or a 26-inch barrel. So yeah, I really, really like this setup. Now, let's talk about the money on the actual cost of this rifle. This bare rifle retails at $2,750. So it's quite a bit less than a custom rifle, but I would throw the performance of this rifle right up there and the shootability right up there with any custom rifle that I have ever played with. And that's why I love it. Now the PH2, which I call the big brother to this, weighs closer to 7 pounds. A little bit heavier barrel, a little bit longer barrel. The stock's still the same. The action is not the titanium and aluminum, so that adds a little extra weight. And then the rail is held on by 4 screws. But you can pick those rifles up for about $1,850. And those two rifles, so that PH2 rifle and this Element rifle, is by far the number one rifle that I have used, and just love the performance and the ease of them. For the money, I haven't found one that I like better. And I've tried a bunch of different rifles. The chambers are smooth. I have never had a sticky chamber where I felt like, when I get a little hot load that I got to pop the bolt open. And I can't say that about a lot of other manufacturers that I have used. And even, guns that are more expensive than this, that without even having that hot of a load, I'm like having to rip that bolt open to pop it loose. And you can see marks on the cases where it's scratching them inside the chamber. And these have just been phenomenal. They've been easy. I haven't had any issues with any of them that I've had to send back. And I've done a lot of them. All right, one more thing about the gun that I did not mention, I wanted to mention, is that it has a carbon fiber mag. This mag feels like you're holding air. It's super light. It just pops in there very nicely. I love the fact that these rifles, this one and the PH2, both have magazines and they are carbon fiber. They hold 3 down and 1 in, so you could run 4 rounds in there, no problem. All right. Let's get into the other components of this rifle, the components that I have on here. And these have also been like my favorite components when you're talking about having what I call a premium budget setup. Guys, we're running a sale on the bottle rest from now until Cyber Monday. So for about 1 week. Never before have we sold these for that price. These are normally $44, I believe, on the website, and we are selling them for $29 through Cyber Monday. I would encourage you to think about who needs one of these for Christmas. Think about that guy that struggles shooting. And this is your way of saying suck less. Take advantage. I will have the link pinned in the first comment. Click on the link. You can go there. You can check out. If you buy a 3-pack, you get him even cheaper than $29. So go buy a few for Christmas and give them away Christmas morning. Appreciate y'all. I throw these rifles, this one and the PH2, into a premium budget price. They are phenomenal rifles for the money, and I feel like you're going to get almost custom performance out of them. All right, so the scope that I use on a lot of setups is the Nightforce SHV scope, and the reason for that is I believe it's the best scope that you can buy for the money, in my opinion. This scope's a $1,200 scope, and the reason that I love it is because of how well that it holds its zero. It has plenty quality glass to shoot 1,000 yards in low light situations. And this is a 5 to 20 power scope, so it has a decently low end for really close-up encounters, and then it has up to 20 power, which is plenty of power to go out to 1,000 yards on deer and elk and those big game. Love that scope. For $1,200, I just think it's kind of unbeatable. I always throw Nightforce rings on here because they're lightweight, but they have heavyweight performance. They just do a great job of holding everything in place so you don't lose your zeros. You guys see me on one of the previous videos taking this rifle and dropping it. It was pretty hard to do, but we did a drop test. We dropped it from probably about 3 feet twice, right onto the side of the scope, and we didn't lose a zero. So that was a good test for that Nightforce and those rings. All right, there's a couple different bipods that I've used in the past. One is Spartan Precision, and then recently I have ran across the Gunworks 2.0 bipod, and this bipod has kind of been replacing the Spartan one for me because I feel like it's just a little bit more stable because of the way that it locks onto the rail. The Spartan has a magnet that it goes into, and it's a great bipod as well. However, I feel like this one's a little bit more versatile. This thing has the ability to go from a 5-inch height all the way up to a 19. And so there we have the legs splayed out. And if you push this little button in the back, these legs go out further. So you can see we're super low right there. And then you can go back in. You have that option, a little higher, and then you can even go in further, has 3 clicks. And now you're in the narrowest setting, which allows you to go the highest. So I'll just do one leg here, so that telescopes out. And then this also extends. So if you go in that setting, you're up 19 inches high. And it in my opinion, has become my favorite bipod out there. One of the reasons that I love the Spartan bipod is because I can adjust it with one hand without actually, really having to get out of my scope. I can stay in my scope and I can press the button. The Spartan does the same thing. I can press this button and just tip the rifle, and it just moves, one. You can move it one click at a time. If I'm actually set up, it's easier because it's spring loaded. So just a phenomenal bipod. I love that. And of course, I'm always carrying the bottle rest as a rear support. So most of you guys have probably seen this, but it's a bottle, holds 28 ounces of water, and doubles as your rear rest. Has 4 different height, so you can pick which height is the best for you. I just got back from mule deer hunt, and we were in about 6 inches of snow, so we were using those higher settings, and it was getting us up out of the snow. We shot 4 mule deer, and we shot every one off of this. And it's your water bottle. So that is my setup that has become my favorite setup that I have ever done in about 10 years of setting up rifles. This is it. If I could only have one gun and one caliber for the rest of my life, and the little bit of knowledge that I have, I would have to say it would be the Seekins Element Rifle with a Night Force scope. I would probably spend a little bit more and get one of the NXS or the NX8 scope. I would probably put the NX8 scope on in a 4 to 32 power just so I have a higher power that I can also use as a little bit more of a spotting scope sometimes when I'm not carrying a spotting scope and say I'm being picky on shooting a deer or an elk and I want to be able to zoom up and see what he is a little bit better at distance. That 32 power scope kind of doubles a little bit as your spotting scope. I would have to say the caliber choice would be a hard toss-up between the 7 PRC and the 300 PRC, but I would probably say the 300 PRC simply because it's a 30 caliber, and if I ever went to, say, Alaska or somewhere, then I would just have a little bit more gun. If I wanted to go moose hunting, something like that, or bear hunting, brown bear, grizzly bear hunting, that 30 caliber shooting a little heavier, 212 or 220 grain bullet is probably what I would have in there. That would probably be just my all-around go-to setup, and it would be light enough to throw in the backpack and go into some high country sheep hunt or some way back in elk hunt. I believe for a rifle setup that gets you the most performance for your money, this is probably about as good as you're going to do. That is my opinion and my 10 cents on what I call the world's best long-range rifle for the money.